They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned. Straight up. Look, I came into this world in 1978. The doc looked me in my face and knew I was something great. 45, 42 Prescott, that's where I'm from. Grew up in the slums around dope dealers and bums. As humble as I was, I adapted to my habitat. In my own lane though, far from where they crashing at. Dumb bar graduate, the game I'd have mastered it. Served in the Navy, look, y'all don't know the half of it. Pops passed in 01, moms passed last year. I know they up in heaven smiling down, crying mad tears. Cause they son making it, no telling where I'm taking it. My city been cursed, but I feel that I'm breaking it. Coached at Wayne High in 15 in one state. Seen the fork in the road and went straight. I know what I'm worth, I'm OG King Kirk. Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend, let's work.
Hey, this is OG King Kirk, and welcome to the OG2CENTS podcast. Back with another episode. Hope you enjoyed the last one with Scott Cole. Just remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Helps us out a lot. You can find us also on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and so forth. So just make sure to remember to subscribe. Also to remember to stand up against any forms of social injustice and racism. And this episode is brought to you by Zenni Blocks. Make sure to armor your eyes from Zenni Blocks virtual clear blue blockers. It's important to protect your eyes from the harmful blue lights from your digital screens, so you'll have less eye strain, and that makes for better sleep and performance. Check them out at zenni.com/gaming. and follow them on Twitter and Instagram. This episode 89, an interview with Coach Roy. Coach Roy is currently the head coach and GM for the Raptors Uprising. Prior to his current role, he spent 1 year as the assistant coach and offensive coordinator for the Mavs Gaming. This came after creating the inaugural 5v5 and 3v3 UPA champion, Liquid Pro-Am Gaming. Through his startup, Liquid Sports Lab, after seeing the need for detailed structure in the amateur Pro-Am community. At 23, he is currently the youngest head coach and GM in the NBA 2K League and hopes to one day be the GM of an NBA franchise. Without further ado, I don't like to get to do too much talking about my guests. Coach Roy, how you doing today?
Good, Kurt, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No doubt. I think we met in Vegas. That was our first actual encounter. Had a good time. At that time, you were the assistant LT with Mavs Gaming. Happy for you. Want you to be able to tell your story. Just to kick it off, just let people know who Coach Roy is.
So what's up, everyone? So Coach Roy is man. It's a tough first question, but in terms of who I am, man, I was just I was an 18-year-old kid playing Pro-Am just like everyone else, and for me, I got hurt. Right, I went to college, just like so many people in 2K community. I went and played college baseball, got hurt, and it forced me to look in the mirror and be like, how can I still compete? With my arm in a sling at home, COVID's going on. How can I still find a way to be competitive in this community, in this world? So I turned to Pro-Am, and it was 2K17, 2K18. Got really deep into the Pro-Am scene. Was okay as a player, wasn't really making any waves. Definitely wasn't good enough to make a career out of it. Went to school, got my degrees, and then always had a love and passion for it. So out of college, had the opportunity to, start Liquid Pro-Am, LT, shout out LT Fairley for giving me an opportunity with Mavs Gaming. And just really was an opportunity to make a passion my career. And, shout out the Raptors Uprising front office, our ELT team here. Executive leadership team for giving me the opportunity to come in and be a GM and head coach in my second 2K League season.
No doubt. Talk about how you put Liquid Pro-Am team together. It was obviously you did something new, something that was kind of foreign in our community to a degree. So just talk about the idea and how you executed that.
Yeah, so I like I said, I was a player literally earlier that year. I was playing. It was 2K21. It was current gen or now last gen. So I was playing, and I literally told my teammates, I said, if we can't make it past WR Elite 8, I'm done. Like, this is too much time. I could be doing other things. We could all be doing other things. Like, it was a time to look in the mirror and find another way to hopefully get in the league. So we didn't make it past WR Elite 8, just like every year before that, and PBA Elite 8, but like every year before that. And literally, I was like, okay, how can I make a difference? How can I kind of, do something that hasn't been done before? And I had a startup, and it was focused in biotechnology. And I was like, that's great, but there's a lot of people talking about how to do stuff. And then I was like, I want to be the first one to actually put something together. So I knew the biggest thing for Pro-Am teams holding talent back was, and as a player, was teams break up all the time, man. Someone gets into a fight. There was less accountability without the players there in person, right? That's what the 2K League does. Puts them in a room together, forces them to hash out their issues. So I said, all right, if there can be someone that kind of is the unifying figure in keeping these guys together when things get hard, their talent can really shine at the upper level, right? Because we all got peaks and valleys. If we can make our valleys, we can raise them up a little bit, then we don't got to worry about the team just quitting because things got hard. So that's all it was, is I had, a lot of young kids at the time. We had Ryan Harris, that's Spam 101. We had Mason Bracken, Johnny Red, Eyeball Zay, Matt, who was King Peroxide, and Dietrich. And at the time, these guys were playing on their little amateur teams, and Spam was with one of many. Johnny was coming from Bombs Away. Zay had just played with In Control, which was obviously the name in Pro-Am at the time. Matt was coming from the league. Peroxide was coming from the league, and Dietrich was like on the come up. And basically, all these guys kind of knew each other, and they'd showcased like pretty solid value. And I said, if I can just be the guy that keeps this team together, they had all the talent in the world. If I can put them in a position to do content, stay together through the peaks and the valleys, in a position where resources aren't a problem for them to go to these new LAN events, I think we might have something special. And that's really how it came to be. Is people say, man, what did you do differently? I'm like, yeah, the numbers, the analytics, all that kind of stuff. But it was really just an ecosystem for guys to show their talent. I mean, I wasn't playing the game for them. We were just trying to navigate the ebbs and flows of amateur Pro-Am together.
No, that sounds wonderful. I know we talked about you being, of course, the assistant coach with Mavs Gaming, and then now being the head coach of Raptors Uprising. But I want you to talk about that journey and like, how did things come about? Like, the chain of events that took place before you became the assistant coach for Mavs Gaming, and then also landing the job as the head coach for Raptors Uprising.
Yeah, and it's actually been a crazy whirlwind, because I think it's been like 1 year. Like, literally, I got hired as the Mavs Gaming assistant coach in December, and so we won UPA last year in July. And after UPA, when you do something right, my dad always used to tell me, when you do something right, like whether it's right, wrong, whatever the case may be, when you do something notable, people are going to talk about it. So we won, and the timeline went crazy, right? They were like, Liquid won, they did this, they were really young, how did they even win? We thought they were going to fold on stage, and I got a lot of the credit. Some deserved, some undeserved, man, for sure. And they kind of elevated my status in terms of like, people were like, okay, he won an amateur event. The logical next step is for him to get an interview. So I think LT was the biggest reason why I got an interview. Is LT and the team over there at Mavs Gaming, they were like, okay, we're going into a new year. We're looking for a new assistant coach. I think LT was great at saying, he's such a strong community guy. Like, players want to play for LT. So he said, if I can get an analytics guy, a guy who's more numbers focused, younger, like new in the community, surface level, then like, he's good at stuff that I'm not good at, and I'm good at stuff that he's not good at, and they can like really round out our coaching staff. So the way he always tells me is, he's like, yeah, man, I said, I'll give you an interview. What's the worst case that can happen? And I tell all the coaching candidates out there, man, if you win something somewhere, if you're winning consistently, you're going to get an interview. Now, how you do in the interview is really how, what keeps your foot in the door. And yeah, I was lucky. I went through 3 or 4 interviews with the Mavs and just talked to them about my process, was able to get hired over there. It was a solid season. We won the ticket championship. In terms of Mavs Gaming history, it was their best ever year in terms of earnings made. And I think we did, LT and I maximized the roster and talent on that team. And how it came about with the Raptors is it's truly a funny story. And I've actually never told this story before, so I thought I'd hear on the podcast. There was a trade deal we were doing last year, and the head coach and GM at the time was a guy named Shane Talbot. And at the time, and I can tell this story now that Shane's now the CEO of AMP, shout out Shane, doing big things. He said, hey, I'm moving out of this role soon, just so you know. So if our trade talks don't get finalized, nothing comes to fruition, call this other guy. So I end up calling Shane's vice VP, who was like the interim GM for a bit. We go back and forth, and I basically tell him, look, man, you're asking for too much. This is why I think you're asking for too much. And I end up giving him like a whole numbers proposal and being like, I think you're BSing me, and here's why. And me and him actually got into a little fight. He was like, you're BSing me, whatever. I'm like, whatever, never gonna talk to this guy again. Nothing ends up happening. 2 days later, the VP of the Toronto Raptors shoots me a LinkedIn connection. And 2 weeks later after that, he goes, yo, I know we had our differences on the call. He said, I just want to tell you how much I respect you for like sticking to your guns and saying like what you believed in. So then 6 months go by, the Raptors have a tough season. He reaches back out to me and he goes, what do you think about our season? And it was a weird question at the time because I was, with the Mavericks, so I wasn't going to entertain it. And I was just like, oh yeah, like giving him surface level stuff. He said, I've always remembered our conversation at a trade talk in January. If there is an opportunity for you to be the co-chair, like, I think I could see something coming to fruition. So then after the season concluded over at the Mavs, we went back and forth, and then obviously we're able to land on a, number and bring me over here to Toronto. So it's truly like every single one of the opportunities I've got, man, I've been truly blessed with someone in the community or someone in a leadership role giving me an opportunity and just noticing me from a situation that I didn't think I could get noticed in,
No, without a doubt. And if I had to throw my 2 cents in there, it's a lot of lessons to be learned. For one, you put in the work. Why people were looking, why people wasn't looking. Once it got acknowledged, you took advantage of the opportunity. And then even in the situation between Raptors Uprising and Mavs Gaming, I mean, just you sticking to your guns and being who you are, it paid dividends. I mean, sometimes we can be in situations where, we may not always be viewed upon as the best in that particular situation, but somebody can admire from afar, and when opportunities open up, boom, there you are. You always manage to stick on people's brains when you stick to your guns, and be who you are. Yeah. So that made yourself become attractive to them and opened up another situation. So congrats to you on that. I mean, where are you from, Roy?
So I grew up I'm from everywhere. So I grew up here in Toronto from when I was 6 to 13. I moved to New York, right outside New York City, from 13 to 21. And then as soon as I went to college in upstate New York. And as soon as I graduated college, obviously went to the Mavericks, and now back in Toronto. So a little bit of everywhere. But I spent like 5-6 years here when I was like super young.
Got you. Shout out to Shane too. He's one of my favorite guys. Kind of miss interacting with him and during our league meetings when we have them every year and different things like that. But great guy, especially somebody to get to know. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on NBA 2K23?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different game. In terms of we're used to seeing the high scoring guard, and that still holds true a little bit, but I think the little things come out a lot more in this game. And this is kind of a year I pushed myself as a player this year, this pre-draft, to kind of get back into the game as heavy as I did back in the day. And you just notice like it's not as easy to score. And so what that does is it magnifies all the little things, right? The communication, the good routes, the good chemistry, the spacing, all that kind of stuff. Because you might have a great possession and not score. So all you can keep doing is keep putting yourself in situations to get great possessions again. So I think it puts a big microscope on the little things. Some stuff we could ignore before, which is like he can score the ball. It's not really anyone, or maybe there is a couple guys, but maybe there's 5 or 6 guys that are scoring the ball like that. So everybody else, how well you do those other things, right? So I think it's gonna be interesting for sure.
Right. Now, kind of to bounce back to your past experience and what you have endured over the 2K League seasons, coming, being somebody who was a spectator and having your own thoughts and like many and how you feel like you can impact the organization or what type of splash you can make in the league. Going from that stage to actually getting into the game and actually being a part of the league and being a part of a franchise, what are some things that you thought was one way when you were on the outside looking in versus when you actually got your foot in the door?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was, I was 17, 18 years old when I was a junior in high school when the league first came out. So season 1, I was 17 season 1. And I thought that, we've got these like crazy big staffs, right? I thought it would be the GM of a 2K League team. Like, I just gonna be a GM. That's it. And then I finally got to do it. And I'm like, man, it is like you're basically running a whole operation over here, like a CEO almost. So I think that's the number one thing is how much coaches do. I think from the community standpoint, a lot of people are like, how come the same coaches, don't have a poor year and get fired? Well, because none of us actually just coach. Like there's partnership, sponsorship, ELT, community-based stuff, internal, external, all this kind of stuff. And you've got to wear so many hats. I think that's been the biggest like transition point where I'm like, the coaches are just coaches. No, the coaches we got to do everything. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest like myth about the 2K League that was different.
Right. It's always an interesting topic because, rarely, it's always situational, but like you said, in most situations, if you look at traditional sports where you're the coach, you just coach. Like you don't have to do, your responsibilities are lessened outside of the actual basketball operations of things. So it's always interesting that if somebody has a down year or some down years and people calling, for their head. The other thing about it is that there are worse things that can happen in the 2K League outside of losing. Yeah. Like you're literally getting most of the time, at least from my experience. Now it's to the point where I probably have 2 to 3 young kids who've never been away from home, never been on their own of any sort, and they coming into a whole new market, experiencing a whole new lifestyle, pretty much living as a grown individual. And there are so many things that a player could get into that would be worse than losing. So to be able to manage a franchise, have a season where you don't experience anything external outside of 2K League activities, that's almost a win in itself. So it's always an interesting topic. Like I said, nobody gets in this wanting to lose. I want to ask you, going from one experience to the next, kind of like a clean slate, so to speak, because you're in a new market, in different roster. What are some things that, if you can go back and take from the experiences that you had and kind of want to clean it up going into the future, what are some things that you kind of want to tighten up and become better at?
So my takeaway from last year, some of the things that I wish I did was speak up more. And why I say that is at the end of the day, like I think you put it best, like the 2K League franchise in most teams falls on the head of one person or two people. And it's everything. It's everything from, did you meet with this sponsor, to, is this guy mentally healthy off the game, to, is he producing on the court? And I think in a lot of situations, like, being a 22-year-old kid coming out of college, I just sat back and I said, okay, like, this is the way that things have always been done. And I'll sit back and I'll I'll be okay with it. But I mean, if there's a better way, then you go do it. You know what? Go tell someone. And if you can't do it, like, go approach your head coach or your GM or whatever the case may be and say, hey, I think there's a better way to do things. And I say that because there's always a better way to do things, right? Like things have to adapt. As new information is exposed to us, we got to get better. So I think one thing that I did is I definitely, I wish I spoke up a little more in certain situations. But otherwise, I will say, otherwise, do your research on an organization before you join them. And what I mean is everyone's got their values. We have our values as men, as coaches, as players. The same thing goes for the senior leadership in organizations. So if you can do your research, and I mean really do your research, Google them, yes, but speak to people that have worked with them, worked for them, ask the right questions in the interview. So one question I always ask now, every time I interview for a coaching job. So I ask the manager, whoever the hiring manager for the role is. So in most cases in 2K League franchises, that's a vice president somewhere. And I always ask them, what makes you most proud of your team? Because you get to see, do these guys truly believe in the power of esports and community? Or are they going to give you a blanket answer like, oh, they work hard? If they can give you some specific stuff, some specific knowledge, you can tell they're tapped in with their team. They're tapped in. They know their guys. They know who they've got in charge. They have read through the rules. They wake up thinking about this problem. They go to sleep thinking about this problem. So, yeah, between speaking up more and doing your research on organizations before you join them, there's a lot of prospective coaches now, and I'm very happy that I was a small part in that. The people are coaching the amateur scene. Not every organization is for everyone. Put yourself in advantageous situations and positions where you can grow, where you can feed into the organization, and the organization can feed off of you. If you can't leave a place better than you found it, don't take the role. If it's going to cost you your peace, don't take the role.
And that's some valuable information. I mean, and coming from a puppy, so to speak, that hasn't been in the league for a long time, but it definitely is fact. I mean, I think it pays dividends to be in the right situation, because internally you want it to help you grow as you help the organization grow. And I think sometimes it's tough, but it can be well worth it at the end. Now, we got another UPA regional event coming up in Dallas, Texas. I want to get your thoughts on something that we spoke about vaguely, about, some prospects, going, some may not be going. Just want to get your opinion on the topic.
Yeah, I think, look, some prospects, it's just, I would treat it like the draft combine, right? The NFL draft combine. Some prospects don't run the 40. Why don't they run the 40? Well, because they got nothing left to prove. They put up, 8,000 yards in college. Why would I run the 40? You can only hurt me, right? So for some prospects, some players, I understand. If you're a guaranteed top 5 pick and you're saying, hey, I don't want to do this, then don't do it. I think my number one thing is don't half-ass it. Don't go just to go. If you're going to go, lock in. If you're going to go, use that platform as your platform. So for everyone else, though, that's not either retained or a guaranteed pick, there is something at stake here. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't be a prospect. Every single coach now has a spreadsheet or document or some list or a whiteboard somewhere of about 50 names. There's 48 picks in this year's draft, 50 to 75 names, right? You may or may not be on that list of 50, 75 names. So if you're not on that list, UPA provides for the number one opportunity to go put yourself on that list. If you're on that list, it gives you the number one opportunity to move up that list. You never know what we're going on behind the scenes. The same way that you never know what somebody else is going through in life, you don't know what we're looking for. There could be a team out there somewhere that's saying, you know what, personality-wise, we have 4 alpha guys. We have guys that like to talk a lot, which is fine. I need a good listener at the 4. I have a power forward spot open. I need a good listener. And you don't know those little things. So you might be, pretty good on the court, but if they go see hey, you know what? He's taking a back seat to his teammates, which isn't a problem. You don't always got to be a leader. Somebody's got to do some listening sometimes. And they say, okay, look, this is the guy for me. And so UPA is it's the proving ground. I think, I mean, even for me, like without UPA, I'm not in the league and I'm a coach. If you're not a guaranteed prospect, I think you have to be playing in it. Go out, meet some people, network, put some names to faces. It's good for the community, first of all, which we all care about because we all spend a lot of time, growing it. It's good for yourself, can improve your draft stock, and it's good to just meet people. These guys might, even if you're in the league, these guys might be your teammates one day. Don't you want to get to know them as men? So I think if you've got the means and resources to be at UPA, you absolutely should be there, whether you're playing or not playing. It's too much on the line to go to bed at night and say, could I do more?
No, without a doubt. I think it falls up under what I feel like is, and you're now in that role where you're going to be interviewing prospects and everything like that. But the more you can get to know about a prospect, the better. I mean, I keep trying to tell the community through so many tweets and so many videos, but as this league continues to grow and go, it's going to be a lot more sophisticated than it has been in the past. And when I say that, I'm speaking from a higher management all the way down to a coach or a GM that's from the community. I mean, people over time, I mean, this is not something that is hard to follow. The 2K community is not as complex as some people like to make it. So people who have not been introduced to 2K early, but have caught on in the last 3 to 5 years, they're going to figure out different prospects and different players and how they are on Twitter and, how they are when they play in the game and different things like that. So some organizations, they kind of have a quote unquote prototype of, what type of player they want to deal with and what type of player they don't want to deal with. And I think sometimes that's what we fail to recognize by not being accountable for our own actions. And I'm saying "are" because I have and always will be a part of the community to some degree, but people have to start recognizing that. I mean, I think I'll be at UPA. Krishnan will be there with me too, but I like to see people in person. Online is not good enough for me when you don't always get a chance to, you don't even hear comms or get cams or anything like that too many times when you're watching players compete online. And that's whether it's in the amateur leagues or in the combine or whatever. So I think it's important that, barring money issues, I mean, because people have them, but barring money issues, if you can make UPA, I would strongly advise that you attend, not only to compete, but mainly to network and really get people a sense of who you are in person. And that can take you a long way. This year may not be your year, but next year could be your year, and you fail to attend events that could actually, keep you on people's minds. And I think that's important for people to do.
And so I think a big thing too is I used to have this saying with LT last year, it's players, not picks. So everyone's like, oh, I won't get drafted there because they got 27 and I'm projected to go 45. And I'm like, you don't know. If you need a power forward and that's all you need, who cares if it's 25 or 45? It's players, not picks. What does that mean? This is not the internet. This job, the 2K League, is not the internet. Kurt, you've been in that room. I've been in that room before where things are not good. And I need the man behind the controller to step up and say, fellas, we got to be better. I need a leader. I need someone who's going to rally the guys. I need a guy that's going to buy in, who's going to follow that leader. I need personalities that are going to ensure that we're doing our best job day after day after day. And UPA is the number one way to show your personality. That's what it is. Put yourself in the best position to succeed. If you show something in your personality, and I got, I've picked 36 and I got one pick left. If I got one pick left, I got my team. I know what my team is. I know what they can do on the court. Now I'm really looking for the guy that can help us on the court, off the court, in the content room, in the stream room that I'm in right now. It's a lot more that goes into the game than the game in the 2K League. And I think when people start understanding that, UPA is a way to show your originality, because we all play the same league builds, man. You got to be original some way. And that's you as a man. And UPA gives you the opportunity to do that. So
No, I like that. I'm gonna quote that. It's players, not picks.
Mm.
I like that. Before we get to OG wants to know, I want to ask you this. Just some thoughts and expectations that you may have in this upcoming season.
Yeah, for me, tough spot to be in, right? No first round pick. Came in Kenny, Saint, and Type. Think transparently, think all those guys are great players. Like I said, I think this wasn't the time for Saint and Type to be here. We didn't have, and that's on us. That's on the Raptors. We as the Raptors, and I'll include myself in this, even though I wasn't here last year. I will include myself. We failed to put a winning product around them. We failed them to put them in a position to be successful. So, I was happy to send Saint to the Cavs. I think it put him in a great position to be closer to his daughter. I mean, family over everything at the end of the day. But B, also, he had at the time a set 5 that he could play with, and he was super hungry to play with guys such as Oreo. So happy we could do that for him. And I think Type gets a new lease on life with the Knicks, man. I think they got 2 really good guards. I think that's going to let Type be successful. At the end of the day, I want my players, whether they played for me 1 season, no season, whatever the case may be, I want them to be in the best positions possible. I want them to turn this job into a career. And so I think we sent them to spots where they can keep consistently producing and keep, being retained in this league. In terms of, production on the court, yeah, I mean, the job is still to win. Maybe it looks a little different for us, right? Maybe that job is 3v3. Maybe that job is the ticket. Maybe the job is winning some BO1s, sneaking some money when we can. The job is just to win. We're still gonna try. I think the league has changed enough where we're still gonna try and win a tournament this year, even though we're in a rebuilding season. But at the end of the day, and this goes out to all the prospects out there, if I can keep 3 players at the end of this year, that's a successful season for me. Because it was a really tough spot to be in as a new GM, moving countries with a brand new roster and no first round pick. If I can keep 3 players, if I can have a core, a nucleus, 3 guys I can count on, depend on, and know how this thing works, that's a win for me in my book for this season.
Hey, I agree. I've been I've been in some trying situations myself throughout this time. I was coming up on my 5th season. I'm always accused, my VP always accuses me of overcooking my grits because basically calling me a worry wart. But everybody wants to win. I want to be competitive first and foremost, because without being competitive, you don't have a shot at winning. But it's more stress than people think. You trying to get some continuity between players that haven't been together for a long time. And this is not like online where you can just pick up the controller and cut on the game when you feel like it. You're dealing with players in live times who ultimately have lives of their own that's going on during the season. And most of them are away from home and things of that nature, but you're trying to put it all together on one night, on a per night basis. To be the best that you can be. And it's not always easy, and especially with the format that we're dealing with now, where we're playing online and then you have to qualify to go play in person. If you're not playing in person now, you don't have a chance at winning anything. So definitely a stressful situation. And like I said, I've been there a time or two, so I can side with you, but wishing you nothing but the best in your upcoming season as a head coach. It's that time of the show. It's called OG Wants to Know. Just rapid fire questions. Nothing too hard. Just answer open and honestly as possible. Favorite thing to do when you're not working?
Right now, playing 2K. When I was in Dallas, it was kayaking.
Okay. Favorite food?
Favorite food. Oh, this is a tough one, man. I'm gonna say I'm Indian. My grandma's got like a spinach dish called palak paneer. Always makes me miss it. There's some good Indian restaurants here. I had some the other day, made me think of her. So palak paneer.
Gotcha. Favorite color and why?
Red. And it was because when I was 6 years old, I was a huge Raptors fan. So that red and second purple, that old school Raptors throwback, that was my favorite color growing up. Still is.
Gotcha. Favorite 2K player of all time?
Favorite 2K player of all, probably JBM. I knew Jack since we were like kids. Jack is from Rye, which is right next to Scarsdale. So I got to know Jack like growing up. And then you lose touch, go, like search him up on Instagram, see what he's up to. See he's playing in the 2K league. See he's winning in the 2K league. See he's pretty good in the 2K league. So JBM, me and him are super close. Hope he's doing well. I know he's doing well. He's over at college now, so proud of him.
Favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete, probably say Roger Federer. My dad and I growing up were he was a big tennis fan, so he would like wake me up like 6 a.m. My mom was like, "Why are you waking up the kid? He's 3 years old. Take me to go watch tennis," stuff like that. So Roger Federer.
Got you. Favorite genre of music?
Favorite genre of music. I don't know if it's a cop-out answer, but whatever. Like when I was in Dallas, I got super into country music just because that's like the community, and I wanted to like get to know the community of where you live. But all time, I'd probably say like rap or R&B, like older R&B.
Okay. Favorite content creator?
Favorite content creator, Chris Smooth. I was in high school watching those videos, like like under the covers, hoping like no one, my mom wouldn't like cut off the phone because of curfew. But Chris Smooth back when he made those My Career videos.
Got you. Favorite 2K?
Favorite 2K 17.
Okay. Best 2K League moment?
Best 2K so far. So it's only been 1 year for me so far. Beating the Jazz last year was awesome because no one thought we was gonna do it. And watching LT, that was my favorite part of beating the Jazz, man. Is like he's a very calm guy. So when he gets animated, like something big just happened. So watching LT after we beat the Jazz last year, he was going nuts. I loved it. It was awesome. Energy was electric.
Okay. What would you consider success in your first season as a head coach?
Finding the right culture. And it's so funny because I'm known as the data guy, right? I'm known as like the guy who took Josiah's numbers and like put them on steroids. Like Nick said that in the video on the timeline a couple months ago. And like, yeah, and that's completely true. And that's still who I am. But finding the right culture for me would be success. I got one guy on the roster. And transparently, and I've told Kenny this, I'll tell you this, I'll tell everyone this. Kenny could be really good. Kenny could be not so good. I mean, we're trying to hopefully that we get season 3 Kenny back, and I believe we'll get season 3 Kenny back. But if we get the right culture of guys that where I can get 3 guys that know who they are, know what they want, and know how to get there, then my job becomes super easy. It's get them 2 other prospects and players that want to win just as bad as they do and do things the right way. And it sounds cliche, but when you don't have it, you realize how much it matters. And so finding the right culture in my first season. If I can find that, it's championship. It's finding the right culture first, and it's championship aspirations from that point onwards.
I will tell you this: everything that's considered cliche is not so cliche-ish when you're in this situation. Before we get out of here, just what's next for Coach Roy? And I want you to give some advice on prospects that's out there trying to make the 2K League.
So what's next for me? And it's a good question, man, because I think about this the other day. I have wanted to be in this position since I was in high school. I was 17 years old saying I want to be in this chair one day. Like it was, I want to be head coach, and I want to be head coach and GM. And LT used to always tell me, he said, like, do you really want it? Because like it's a lot. And I texted him the other day at like 1 a.m. I texted him. I said, "Yo, you were right, man. Like this is too much, man." Like, and he was like, "I told you." So what's next? Transparently, I don't know. I've been dreaming about this position right here for so long that I'm now here, and what's next is hopefully doing a great job here. And that's all I'm really focused on. And honestly, that comes from a place of privilege. Like I'm one of the few that got very, very lucky to be able to dream something and then be able to go do it, man. Very few men in this life get that opportunity. So that comes from a very grateful place. And my piece of advice for prospects is don't leave any stone unturned. And like I said, more cliche, but take the cliche and make something literal out of it. So what are you doing to ensure you get drafted, right? today, if you had to look in the mirror and say, what are the things that I'm lacking at? What would they be? And what I mean by that is some people are really good on the court, but there's no regimented film of them in a good spot for scouts to go view. Go make that. Why would you leave it on the table? Why would you leave this to chance? Some people are, great at the game and have that, but no one really knows them because they only came up in the last 6 months. Okay, I know it's going to be tough to get to UPA. I know flights are expensive, but you got to grind. Get your ass to UPA so you can, we can start seeing you in person, see how you perform on that stage, all that kind of stuff. The 2K community is known for everyone who says there's no opportunity here. I say, look, opportunity is what you make of it. There are opportunity in select places. There are people with tons of knowledge. Make sure you leave no stone unturned. Make sure you're going to the events, you're DMing people. And my actual thing to take away from what I'm saying, the worst thing that somebody can say is no. If you send CURT a DM or me a DM and we don't respond, we don't respond. But maybe we do. If you ask us for advice, maybe we respond, maybe we don't, but maybe we do. Someone says no, fine. Someone says nothing, fine. But someone with knowledge and inner workings of how things work, of where you want to be, gives you the time of day, you can get your foot in the door. You know what I mean? Make people notice you. I don't care how it is. You can Twitter DM them, play well enough, be a good enough guy. People have got drafted for all three of those reasons. Just make yourself to the point where you have to be noticed. And if you're noticed and you're we will notice you if you make yourself notice. And if you hoop while you're being noticed and we say, yo, that guy's pretty good. And he's also playing well on the court. There you go, man. That's how you get drafted. And once you're in the league, it doesn't matter where you got drafted. So just make sure you sleep at night and you go, I did everything I could to make my dream a reality. And if it's just 2K League stuff, if it is your dream, then you should be doing everything for it because it's your dream. You should be going to bed at night and saying, could I have done more? And the answer is no. Sleep like a baby, wake up, do it again tomorrow.
Hey, well put, well put. Also, before you get out of here, I want to make sure people can find Coach Roy on all your social media channels. So just plug away.
Yeah, man. So Twitter, it's Roy Chris. So just Roy and then KHRIS. LinkedIn, I try and get active on LinkedIn now. Keep it professional. Like I said, the VPs are doing the hiring, right? And the VPs are all on LinkedIn. So make yourself a LinkedIn. Roy Krishnan. I will be the first one. KRISHNAN. That's my last name. And then Instagram is just roy.krishnan. And just my first name, my last name. So appreciate Kurt for having me on, man. Got to, you see me come up from, he first spoke about me when Liquid won the world championship. Feels like a million years ago. Only like 12, 14 months ago. And last thing I want to say to everyone out there is if I can do it, you can do it. I see a lot of you on the timeline crusading for vouchers, saying maybe I can't get in, maybe I can get in. Look, man, I did it. It's been a year. It's been a crazy year. God has been good to me, but if I did it, you can do it. I want you to, I'm not no different than anybody else. I want you to keep grinding. You never know when that opportunity might drop for you.
No doubt. I want to say just congrats, Roy. Like I said, I've had a chance to spend time with you and talk with you and watch your progress, before the league, now entering the league. And of course, you work with my best friend. So I was probably a little closer to you than most. But just continue to thrive and learn and navigate your way through this because it's really no instruction booklet when it comes to life within the 2K League. It's just something you have to experience and just learn along the way. But I want to thank you for coming on. Look forward to button heads with you sometime here soon, and definitely I know I'll see you at UPA.
Hey, Kurt, if I can do half as good a job of putting together a roster as you did and be one piece away next year, I'll take that, man. So, yeah, appreciate it.
Got you. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in for this episode. Also, remember, check out our latest episode before this with Scott Cole. Definitely a good episode that you don't want to miss. But remember, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course, yours truly, YouTube. So make sure you give us that 5-star rating. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. You can also find the OG2CENTS podcast on social media at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Follow myself, OG King CURT, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well. You can find me on TikTok and LinkedIn as well. You can go to www.ogkingkurt.com for everything the OG2CENTS podcast and myself. Make sure you go there for anything that you want to find out going on with the podcast and the OG. Shout out to my team, Strider Visuals, Box Graphics, Matrix, and Krishnan Charisma for all the hard work that they put in to make this podcast is what it is. Definitely couldn't do it without those guys. Make sure that you tune in to the episode, next week's episode, and remember, if it makes sense, it's an OG2CENTS. OG out.
Put this work in, fellas. And much, much, much love to the entire 2K community for always showing me love. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.